Hey there. In this explainer, we're going to dig into a core idea in computing that's so simple we often just glance right past it. It's the act of a declaration. And honestly, understanding this is the very first step to making a computer do, well, pretty much anything you want. So to get started, let's just forget about computers for a minute. Imagine you have a piece of information you absolutely positively have to remember. It could be anything: a number, a name, a brilliant idea. What's the very first thing you do? Instinctively, you look for a place to put it, right? A dedicated spot where you know it'll be safe and where you can find it again later. Let's think of it as just finding an empty box, a simple container, totally ready to hold whatever it is you need to store. This idea, this simple empty box, is going to be our guide through this whole thing. Okay, so how does our empty box relate to programming? Well, in the world of code, the act of creating this dedicated space is exactly what we call a declaration. It's the very first move you make when you're working with information. As you can see, the official definition is actually pretty straightforward. A variable is just a reserved spot in the computer's memory. So think of it as the literal digital version of our empty box. It's a place we create specifically to hold a value. And that action, the act of creating that storage space, of telling the computer, hey, I need a box, that has a specific name. We call it a declaration. It's the first instruction we give when we need the computer to remember something for us.
You're literally just saying to the computer, hey, I need a place to store some information. Could you please set aside an empty box for me? It's really just a simple request to create a space.
But, just creating a box isn't quite enough. If we have dozens or even hundreds of them, how do we find the right one again? Well, we need to give our information a name. Just imagine a room full of identical, unlabeled boxes. It would be total chaos, right? The same is true in programming. To make our box useful, we absolutely have to give it a name, a label. And this is key. A variable isn't just a value, it's a named value. That name is the label, and it gives us a reliable way to talk about the box and whatever information we've stored inside. This is exactly why the name we choose matters so much. A clear, descriptive name like visitor name makes it totally obvious what the code is trying to do. But a cryptic name like VN, that just invites confusion and mistakes. Good naming is all about clear communication, not just with the computer, but with other humans who might read your code later. So we have a named box, but what kind of stuff can we actually put inside it? Well, it turns out the computer likes to know what to expect. It's kind of like having different types of containers for different things in your kitchen. You wouldn't store soup in a paper bag. And in the same way, the computer needs to know the type of data a variable will hold so it can handle it correctly. Let's look at a few of the most common types. A variable can hold a number. For doing calculations, it can hold text, which programmers usually call a string, or it can hold a simple true or false value, which is known as a Boolean, and that's perfect for making decisions. So this classification is called the variable's type. Now, some programming languages are super strict and make you define the type the moment you create the box. But others, like JavaScript, are more flexible. They kind of figure out the type on their own, based on the value you put inside. This is often called being dynamically typed. All right, we've created a labeled box for a specific type of information. The very last question is, where in our program does this box actually exist? This concept is called scope. And the easiest way to think about it is to picture your program as a house. A local variable is like a box you keep in a private room, like your bedroom. Only the code inside that specific room or function can access it. This keeps things really tidy. On the other hand, a global variable is like a box you place right in the shared living room. It's accessible from anywhere in the house. This can be super useful, but it also means there's a higher risk of someone changing what's inside by accident. A box, a label, a type, and a location. It all seems so simple, doesn't it? But why is this one fundamental idea so incredibly important? Let's really think about that for a second. Why does this simple act of declaration form the absolute bedrock of everything we do with computers? Well, it's because every complex system you've ever used, from your favorite social media app to the software that flies a rocket, is at its core a system for managing information. And it all begins by creating these named containers for that information. It really all comes down to this simple process. Declaring a named place for data is the very first move you make to organize information. It's how we take a messy cloud of raw data and start to give it structure, turning chaos into order.
It's actually kind of beautiful when you think about it. Before any of the complex logic, before any of this stunning graphics, there is this quiet, essential first act of naming something, of declaring a space. It really is the first sentence in the story of every program.
So, here's a simple way you can carry this idea with you. The next time you're using an app on your phone, just for a second, try to picture the thousands, maybe millions of tiny, labeled boxes working behind the scenes. Each one is holding a tiny piece of your experience, your username, the time of day, the color of a button, all working together and all starting with a simple declaration. Because that's the real secret at the end of the day. All of this incredible complexity that we see in the digital world doesn't start with a big, flashy moment of genius. It starts with a simple, quiet, and elegant act of naming.